Welcome to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss the unidentified. Welcome to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss the unidentified, the unexplainable, paranormal, conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-host, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Sledgehammer Ryan Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Good evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy on FM 107.7 New Orleans, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. Remember to like us on Facebook and YouTube. You see this?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Now, this is for all the tin caps conspiracy theorists who said a long time ago that Fauci was a rat. I just thought I'd throw that in there. So you know what I'm talking about. I don't even have to tell you what this is all about. So you'll know. Okay. I will take it off for you. I know you guys like me in this, but
yeah,
I just can't do the show without my hat. I'm going to have to talk to our guest about that because that's a psychological thing, maybe. Tonight we're going to discuss, it's our anniversary show. So I'm so excited. It's been 1 year since we've been on the air. And I'm so happy to say that, huh, Sean?
Yes, I'm glad you are. I'm glad I am happy to say that too. I really didn't think that
we made it for a whole year. And we're going to celebrate that with our very first guest, psychologist, author, Brian Sharpless. Welcome to Chasing Prophecy.
Happy anniversary, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Brian.
Glad to be back on the anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost the anniversary show. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun. I can't believe we made it this long.
I know.
That's the only good thing about COVID, I have to say, was this show. So
yes,
we have a lot to talk about tonight, guys. Jason and Brian and Sean. Tonight's show is going to revisit our very first show, which we talked about sleep paralysis, shadow people, sleep demons. But we also are going to dive into I want to get Brian's view on this, the latest UFO videos that is suggesting that there is something out there. If there isn't, we're in some deep trouble with China or Russia. So I'm kind of hoping it's aliens, or some kind of special equipment that they have and they're just not telling us about.
Well, hope they're nice aliens.
Yeah, I hope they're good-looking aliens. I'm not looking forward to those creepy ones from like Alien. Yeah, that'd be scary. But Brian, let us know. Tell us what you've been doing, what you've been up to in the last year.
Last year, geez. COVID, seeing patients, teaching, writing, usual stuff. Just less of a commute.
Less a commute.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything special with the sleep paralysis?
Yeah, I've started another study in Czech Republic. So I just finished a project with a collaborator there where we're looking at sleep paralysis that people experience as pleasant. And as you all know, most people do not experience it that way.
Yeah.
So we did a study of that small segment of the population that finds it actually enjoyable.
Well, can you give us a little bit of this enjoyable sleep paralysis?
Yes. Well, as you can imagine, they don't typically involve the evil figures jumping on top of you and things like that. It seems that the people with pleasant sleep paralysis have some of the hallucinations where they feel like they're moving, like they're floating or flying. And it turns out one of the few predictors of whether you enjoy it or not is how open you are to new experiences. So that was the personality trait that was most associated with people who have pleasant experiences of it, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. Because usually when people wake up and they're paralyzed, they're pretty scared.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being enjoyable. I mean, unless they're having a massage. I can't imagine not being able to move as being enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of scary if you.
Yeah.
Well, and COVID. So you dealt with COVID working So have you seen a lot of people struggling through the year with COVID?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean it's been tough on everybody, and every practitioner I know, including myself, has a massively long wait list right now for patients. Just there's not enough people out there to help, so it's pretty sad.
Yeah, that is, yeah, the whole situation. I know the suicide rate was up, and they haven't really talked about that uh, in the mainstream media. I mean, it's like that's something that they're just ignoring. But according to a lot of my friends and family and people on Facebook and other YouTubers, that lost family members due to depression because of COVID.
Yeah, depression and anxiety and drinking have been way up. I think there was something like a 40 or 50% increase in alcohol sales between March and April of 2020. So yeah,
Holy
that,
smokes, man.
that tells you
Yeah, that tells you.
people
Yeah.
are trying to cope, maybe not in the best way.
Okay, so the young lady that was supposed to be on the show is who must have chickened out. She was. I'm going to read you what she emailed me on. It was kind of very unusual. It's not your typical sleep paralysis. Maybe she seems like she was visited by something, but I'm going to go ahead and read what she wrote, and so maybe she'll pop on, maybe she won't. But she said she had her first experience as a 14-year-old, as vivid as today as it was then. And she wrote, I had just abruptly woken up from nightmare where I was drowning. I couldn't breathe. Something was walking in the room towards an antique easel with an antique painting resting on it. The painting was a centaur. I'm not really sure what she means by that. I thought it was my brother and started talking to him, and it was 5:30 in the morning. My dog barking bit at me, running off the bed and out of the room. I got up in bed to look closer. My brother was not answering me. It was a blue-white fibrous egg. A fibrous egg of light from the floor to the ceiling. It appeared to be a feminine energy. It flowed, but also moved as if in fractal energies. There's much more detail after that. The person or the feminine entity stayed in the room for a good 6 minutes. She said, I was frozen, paralyzed with fear, even though it was a gentle energy. I had to go. I woke up about 5:30 in the morning. And then she went on to say, I was up to where it moved in fractal energy, but in a flow. It went over to the painting. This entity was busy. It started to swipe back and forth with its hand, or what would be a hand. I was petrified in my bed, but managed to check the clock to see the time was passing as if it was staying in the room. She says, I saw her turn to look towards me on the bed as I banged my head off the headboard when I went down. It must have heard the noise because she turned at that moment. Then she came towards me by the foot of the bed. This was an overwhelming flow of energy, this blue-white light energy flooding out towards me and enveloping me. Yet still I remained frightened. Then she lifted up her sides to look like wings going towards upward. But it was just the light flowing upward, and she dissipated as she reached the ceiling. And then she said, yes, however, I felt energy because I asked her, I said, what did she think it was? Was it some kind of sleep demon, like some kind of entity in her room? And she said, yes. However, I felt energies around me from a young age. She's always had these energies around her. This was more experiences when I was in my 20s, when I lived with her, she said, when I lived with my father, he witnessed what I witnessed a couple times. So she wasn't the only one who saw this. There was more frequencies of events that happened to her. So, and she said she did have sleep paralysis. She's considering it sleep paralysis. So, and that is what she had to say. What do you think, Brian?
Well, first off, anything I say tonight is not medical advice. It is for entertainment purposes.
Yes, it is.
Throw that out there.
Yes,
I
I put it
like
in the
my
promo
license.
too.
Yes. Well, it's kind of confusing, isn't it? Because she claims she was paralyzed, but then she got up and was moving around the room. She said she got up at a certain time, but I'm not sure if she got up before or after she saw these things. So I'm not sure if it was a dream, sleep paralysis, or what. And she's not here to tell us.
Yeah,
Right.
But certain aspects of it, I mean, could be consistent with sleep paralysis. Just for your audience, this is the experience. I would guess at least some of you have had it, is where you're either going to bed or you're waking up and you find yourself completely unable to move. So it's not just feeling heavy in your limbs. It's not just feeling tired, but you physically can't move anything except for your eyes. And about 80 or 90% of the time that people have this, they're experiencing hallucinations. And the vast majority of them are scary hallucinations, usually involving an intruder of some sort, pressure on your chest, things like that.
Oh, I got one for Brian.
Okay.
So, Brian, I got one for you since it's been a while. So we're talking about the sleep paralysis and demons and stuff like that. There's probably, I told Jenny and Sean about this a couple weeks ago. It was about, a month ago. I was sleeping and I started having this dream that there was this demon choking me, like just choking me, and I couldn't move. And it's like, I can't tell if I was like an in-between sleep and awake, like an awake state. But when I finally came to, my face was like just buried in my pillow. And then I woke up, I like shook it off. I looked around, I didn't know where I was for a second. So I go to the restroom, and where the demon was choking me, there was actually a red mark on my neck. That was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. Some people think I'm crazy, which is fine, but what do you think of something like that?
Well, I wasn't there, but it's interesting that you were you had your head buried in your pillow. So I wonder if maybe some part of the pillow or the bed might have rubbed up against your neck, causing the red mark.
Yeah, it was just it was something else, man. I tell you what.
Yeah.
I love you, Brian. I love you and I respect you, man. But you know where I stand. It's that old hag sitting on my stump, on my chest, and I can't move.
This guy.
But getting back to that girl's email, if it's a blue and white one, those are good light colors. That's good energy. And I believe that it would have been an angel of some sort. The reason being, is that, she really I think she really didn't feel bad about it, and that she could get up and move. But I believe it was an angel. And, if nobody ever experienced seeing an angel before or something strange in their bedroom at night, of course they're going to get scared and they're going to be fearful, and then who knows from there. So that's how I feel about that girl's email.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people talk about that it could be angels. And Brian, I know that like you're the scientist of the group that kind of throws that out, right?
Well, I think I like to see evidence for things. And so I think if you're making the more extraordinary claim, I think the burden of proof is on you to show some evidence. So
Right.
we know that there are lots of experiences that people can have, especially while they're asleep or when they're going to or from sleep. Probably about 20 to 22% of the population has hallucinations as they're going to sleep or waking up. And so we can understand these things, knowing what we know about sleep, knowing what we know about sleep stages. So, I'm completely open to the possibility of anything. And I don't honestly care what other people believe or not. That's, I'm not here to try to convince you to think like I do, just to be clear. But
That's
again,
why I like you.
yeah, I'm an open-minded
like
guy,
you.
and I like to respect other people's beliefs, even if we don't share them. There's too little of that in our society these days, I gotta say. We can disagree with people and still be respectful and
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
But
Definitely.
yeah, like I said, if you're making the claim that it's something sort of outside the realm of our experience, I think it's the burden of proof's on the person making that claim.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Have you noticed with all this year of people, the unrest, and in your therapy that there's been more sleep paralysis? And have you discussed any of that with your patients? I mean, have you come across anything like that?
I
That we're
think there's been a
discussing?
lot of insomnia, and anytime you have anything that disrupts normal sleep, you're going to make not only sleep paralysis, but the other sleep disorders far more likely to happen. So, along with sleep paralysis, you've got things like REM, sleep behavior disorder. This is where you act out your dreams, and this can be really dangerous for people that you sleep next to, because usually you're having a dream that you're being attacked, so you're flailing around, punching. There are lots of documented cases of people being severe, hurting people that they're sleeping with. You've also got night terror disorder, nightmare disorders, all these things. So I haven't seen data yet on how much they've increased, but I would guess they've increased significantly just because people's sleep has been so disrupted. People have been stressed out. People have been worried. People have been drinking a lot more, and alcohol does not do well for your sleep.
Yeah. Myself, on Saturdays, that's one of my nights where I have Coke Zero, Diet Coke Zero with Captain Morgan. Yeah. And I noticed that when I do that, I mean, I only have one shot. I mean, that's all I have. Just that, not a whole shot.
I'm drinking wine right now. I won't judge you. Don't worry.
You're
But
cheap date.
I am a cheap. Yeah, I can't drink. But I've noticed when I do that my sleep is so bad. I mean, I'll wake up. It feels like I was sleeping for 2 hours and I woke up and it's like 2 seconds. Now, I've noticed that with melatonin too, that it seems like it seems like I sleep for over hours. And then all of a sudden I wake up, I'm jolted back, and it's only been a couple minutes. Now, is that a sleep disorder?
I wouldn't call it a sleep disorder, but your body reacts to alcohol. It's kind of weird because in our society, we usually associate drinking with the evening. Nightcap, you go out to a bar, you do all these things. The problem is that when you do that, I'm not going to lie to you, it does make you get to sleep a little easier because it's a depressant. The problem is that it makes it so you don't go through all the normal sleep stages that you should go through. So non-REM sleep, 1, 2, 3, then REM sleep. It actually suppresses REM sleep. So what happens is, as that shot of alcohol in your Coke Zero gets out of your system, then you're going to have more REM activity towards the later part of the night. And then you might end up having really vivid dreams. You might even have sleep paralysis as it's working its way out of your body.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I've noticed that myself that the more I discuss stuff like few of the UFOs, that the newest video where
That's wild.
Yes, the newest one where they actually are freaking out. I guess they're pilots or the Navy. I can't remember which one. It was just recently where they couldn't believe what they were seeing, and there was more than one of these UFOs that dived into the water, and then they dived up into the air, going like what was it, 100 knots they said, or 1,000 knots, something like that. But the more I think about it, the more uptight I get, and I notice that my dreams are very bizarre. I mean, they're getting to the point where they're scary, and I haven't had nightmares in a long time. And then with all this other stuff about the COVID vaccine, and I'm sure you've heard that there's a lot of people, including myself, that doesn't like the side effects and chooses not to receive it. And it just makes me really uptight between that and all this UFO stuff. And you don't know who to believe. I mean, now, even with Fauci coming out with his emails, it seems like, who do you believe? And I think it's disrupting my sleep. And
yeah,
I'm
sure you're not alone. I mean, anything that causes stress is going to screw with your sleep, and anything that's sort of puts you in a negative state of mind before you go to sleep could potentially make it more likely that you're going to have a nightmare. If you look at people that come back from wars or that were assaulted that have post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the things you notice really quickly if you work with them, their sleep is really disruptive and they're having lots and lots of nightmares. So in a smaller way, any little stressor will kind of cause things like that to happen. And I've heard lots of scary dreams over the past year from people, needless to say.
Needless to say, there have been a lot of scariness.
Brian, how do you treat a person that you know definitely has sleep paralysis? How do you treat them?
Yeah, there are a few different ways. So I developed a short-term psychological treatment based on cognitive behavioral therapy. It takes about 5 sessions. So you can do that. People, if they don't have access to a therapist that knows how to do that, they can take certain types of medications. So a side effect of an antidepressant class called the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the side effects is that it makes you dream less. So that's normally a side effect when you're treating depression. But if you wanted to treat sleep paralysis, you could give the person a low dose. So they would use the side effect as the active treatment.
Okay.
And so if you give that to somebody with chronic sleep paralysis, they will have less episodes.
What is it good? I mean, how's the treatment, percentage of people, is it working for them?
Oh, well, you're assuming that there's enough grant money out there to study sleep paralysis.
The ones that
there's
take
barely
the
enough
pill,
money
dude.
to treat depression. Nobody's paying me to treat sleep paralysis except
No,
patients.
what I mean is,
Yeah.
have you had great results with your patients?
Yeah, pretty good results. There have been smaller case studies of these things, and they seem to be effective. But you always have to be nervous, especially if you're doing the treatment yourself, of viewing it as effective or not. You really want outside people to judge it. And so in the smaller trials, it seems to be pretty good. And it, maps on. One of the reasons, there are a few good reasons to consider the fact that sleep paralysis is not paranormal. One of them is not only does it respond to medication and treatment like that, but it also can be induced in a sleep lab. So there were some clever Japanese researchers that hooked people who were complaining of sleep paralysis and the hallucinations, visitations, and all these things, put them in a sleep lab and monitored their brain waves so they could tell when they were entering REM sleep. And then when they entered REM sleep, which is the sleep stage, which is where we dream, they would kind of nudge them awake. And so they'd be in a combination of wakefulness with REM sleep. And they were having sleep paralysis episodes. They were experiencing hallucinations. 8 of the 10 people were experiencing hallucinations actually in the sleep lab, hooked up to all the equipment. So that's another good piece of evidence. There also seems to be a genetic contribution. The people that have sleep paralysis seem to have a mutation on the PER2 gene. And we've known for a while that sleep paralysis travels in families. So that's another good piece of evidence. And then we've even identified the neurotransmitters that cause the paralysis itself. So GABA and glycine are responsible for paralyzing us when we're in REM sleep, so that we don't act out our dreams, so we don't hurt people, so we don't hurt ourselves. And in sleep paralysis, you essentially have normal waking consciousness going on with those 2 aspects of REM sleep, the paralysis and the dreams.
Okay. That's interesting.
Did you ever find any reports of anybody actually committing a murder or anything while under in a sleep paralysis state or sleepwalking state? Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Not during sleep paralysis, because obviously you can't move. It'd be hard to commit a murder.
Yeah.
Unless you're really good with psychic abilities.
Yeah, well, if you got out of the sleep paralysis, like in the middle of it, like,
well, I mean, you can imagine
terrified.
If somebody would murder somebody, they could be in a state of terror, but they would have conscious wakefulness, and the hallucination, like let's say they were hallucinating they were being attacked by somebody. As soon as movement returns, that hallucination goes away. It's like that. And this is where it ties nicely into some vampire mythology. If you read, right, Sean? If you look at the old reports, we're not talking Hollywood vampires, but the real reports of vampires, they will talk about how they will disappear into a mist. just suddenly.
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
And they will also have the ability to glamour people, which is to essentially put them in a trance and paralyze them so they can bite their neck or their chest. Actually, if you look at vampire mythology, necks weren't the main site of sucking the blood. And so, yeah, it maps on kind of nicely into sleep paralysis, because you'll see the same thing where somebody will be hallucinating an attacker. And then as soon as they can move their little finger or their tongue or something, the hallucination goes away. So it's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, but
That's
like extraterrestrials could do the same thing, because there's been known that there these disappearance of these children and people who were abducted in the national parks. They claim that a lot of them they think are in some kind of a trance. So maybe I could see that, where they don't know the person. We're getting back to the shapeshifters and like what was that guy got?
The Rescue 411 guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that. Yeah,
he's a bit cagey on what he believes actually causes those
Yeah.
disappearances. So I'm not really sure where he stands on it. He seems to imply it could be some cryptid. He seems to imply extraterrestrials sometimes. But I don't think we need supernatural things to explain why, especially children disappear. They go sadly.
Yeah, well, we know where they go.
Disappeared all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back to the like sleep, I call it sleep like terror.
Oh yeah, I forgot to answer your question. But yes, there are documented cases of murder with people that are undergoing sleepwalking.
Yes.
And there's at least one case I know of somebody who murdered his wife during an episode of REM sleep behavior disorder. This is where he was having a dream of being attacked, but whereas normally you're paralyzed, in REM sleep behavior disorder, you're not. So he was striking and actually killed his wife. Oh, that's the only case I've ever heard of, but there are a few cases of people that are sleepwalking, which goes on during a different stage of sleep. So that's a non-REM sleep disorder.
Did that guy go to jail?
There were several, and if they documented that it was during sleepwalking, they would not, believe it or not. But the trick comes then, how do you determine if somebody's actually sleepwalking? There's another disorder that is causing havoc in the legal world called sexsomnia or sleep sex. Yes. And this is where, and I am on the level here, I'm not making this disorder up. You are asleep and having sex. You can engage in all the full range of sexual activity, ranging from dirty talking all the way to full on heterosexual or homosexual sex.
Hey, baby.
And crap. This is where it's wild. So you could have sex with somebody if you were engaged in sexsomnia, and you would wake up and you would have absolutely no memory of it.
Oh, wow.
So there are.
How do you explain if you get pregnant?
9 months.
Well, a good chunk of the cases actually that people find out they had sexsomnia when they have the police at their door.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, wow.
So there are cases of sexual assaults happening where people would. What was that?
Sneaking in windows.
That's what Dracula used to do. He used to sleep, look in people's windows.
he did indeed. But here, people in sexsomnia don't seem to have the motor control to like do that. They usually might just sort of in their own bedroom, or they might go to the next room. They can sleepwalk a little bit. But there are really tragic cases of people sexually assaulting family members this, and they had no recollection of it until the next morning. But what makes it legally challenging is, well, how do you figure out if somebody actually has this, or if they're just a smart rapist and they want to use this as an excuse? And there are ways to tell, but I will not share them with your audience.
Okay.
Well, this is not rated G.
Yes, but I don't want to give anybody ideas either.
Oh no! We don't want
I consulted
Jason
on
any
case,
ideas.
I consulted on a case about this in Europe. It was really it's really amazing stuff, but the legal system just doesn't know how to really wrap its head around it, because here you have somebody committing one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit, sexually assaulting someone, but they literally have no memory or intent of doing it. And one of the things that we found is that people with sexsomnia, they do things when they're in a sexsomnia episode that they wouldn't do normally. So they might be rougher. They might say they're heterosexual, but when they're in sexsomnia, they might actually assault against someone of the same sex. So there are all these little sort of variations and little differences of what people do. Yeah.
How would you treat somebody for that? I mean,
the first thing you do is make sure they inform all their family members, make sure they do not do anything that will trigger the episode. So drinking is another thing that can trigger that. Strangely enough, if people have sexsomnia and they're sleeping next to somebody and the other person touches them, even just a slight little, kind of a nice rub on the shoulder, that could be enough to trigger an episode. Wow. So you have to make sure everybody stays safe. So inform family members, potentially put locks on the doors so they can't get out. And there are some drugs that they can take, which will reduce the possibility of episodes, and really just doing good sleep hygiene. Making sure they go to bed and wake up the same time every day, making sure they don't do things that are bad for your sleep. All these things will reduce the sexsomnia episodes.
Huh.
Yeah.
I never heard of that. I learned something
the world
tonight.
of sleep is wild, let me tell you.
I think Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, I've heard, I even heard him say that he sleepwalks a lot. And that his wife actually locks him up in a sleeping bag at night so he don't lose or get out. Yeah.
I mean, people go to desperate lengths. I heard of one person that had sexsomnia specifically, and this person was so afraid of it, they would physically tie themselves to their bed with ropes every night before they went to bed because they couldn't bear the thoughts of hurting somebody they've cared about. I also am familiar with somebody, a vet who had PTSD, who, and he was very public about this, so I'm not like talking about a patient. I saw a talk that he gave, and he actually got a very large dog, and the dog was trained so that when he was sleepwalking, that the dog would go in front of him and keep him from going out in the living room or going near the windows.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, dogs are amazing creatures.
Yes, they are.
Then there's mine.
Well, I have guinea pigs. They're not terribly useful for that stuff, but I love them.
Did you say guinea pigs?
Yes. I have guinea pigs.
You have, they like, you take them out of the cage and they run around?
Yeah.
My niece's guinea pig died recently. She was, How long? They don't live very long, do they?
5 to 6 years on average. Yeah. My boys are around 4. So.
Oh, they'll probably love them. Yeah. Does your children have nightmares?
Oh no, I meant my guinea pigs.
Your
children.
That's what.
Those are your children.
Yeah.
I keep my children in the cage. I let the guinea pigs run around.
Well, let me tell you, this isn't paranormal. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. When we built this house 20 years ago, it had a catwalk, and I'm afraid of heights, and it didn't have the railing going around the catwalk, and I had to walk across to go see what they were building. And it was like I'd crawl. And to this day, I have a phobia with this catwalk. And then every night before I go to bed, I'm always scared. Like, what if I sleepwalk and climb over and kill myself, jump over the balcony, the catwalk? Could that happen? I mean, now I get worried because
that would be extraordinarily rare.
I wouldn't do anything crazy like that.
The people who sleepwalk as adults, I've actually never known one who didn't sleepwalk as a child. Is it possible that it could suddenly emerge? Yes, but it's very, very, very
okay. Because it seems like every night I go upstairs to go to bed, I'm like, I think that, and I go, geez, what if I jump over the freaking catwalk over the railing?
You have a catwalk phobia.
Yes, I have catwalk phobia. Yes, I do. Yeah, I did all that.
Suffer from that.
Cat scratch fever.
I had night terrors all the time. I mean, I had really bad night terrors. I would scream bloody murder. I scare the hell out of my parents. Like, he's in my room. And like, who's in your room? It's fucking 18.
Yeah, damn.
It's like
Where's
saying,
Yeah,
Right.
night terrors are way more terrifying for the people in the house than the person who's suffering
Yeah.
from them. Yeah.
well, the paralysis but now that I know that I can control it with like lucid things, like lucid dreaming, that I can tell myself, yeah, it's only a freaking night terror, or sleep paralysis. There isn't the boogeyman, but I do still think the boogeyman's in my closet.
Uh-huh.
I'll go. It's like there's a portal in my closet that if you walk in and the light comes on at night and this girl needs help. Yes, she does. No, that I've always had it, and my kids had it too. The sleep paralysis to this day.
Yeah.
And my one he does all kind of weird stuff. He does astral projection. He sees him, he goes to this realm where there's like shadow people.
Yeah.
And the shadow people. I don't know if any of you ever watched that movie, that TV series on CBS called Evil.
Yeah, I did. That was creepy, man. That was a creepy show.
Yeah, you can see season 1 on Netflix, and if you're into the paranormal, definitely you should. Brian, you should watch it because it does a lot about sleep paralysis in it.
Honest to God, Jenny, I couldn't watch. I watched 2 or 3 shows, and it just got so gruesome. I couldn't deal with it no more, and I quit watching.
Well, the very first.
Well, now I definitely have to watch it.
No, you should, Brian, because the first couple episodes, there's this woman's paralyzed. She has sleep paralysis, and she sees this evil creature in her room, and he mocks her. And that's exactly what happens when you're in the state of sleep paralysis. When you see things in there, you are mocked. They mock you. Whatever it is, the entities in the room, they actually mock you. And if anybody is watching the live on Facebook and you have a question for Brian, definitely put your comment or question in the chat. We'll love to, spout it out to Brian. Michelle, if you have one.
Yeah, I love horror movies, so I'll have to check it out.
No, yeah, Evil is it's so, because it's so close to reality, because they deal with the Catholic Church and the devil and Satan and how all this confliction going on, and the evil, I guess they're demons in there, and basically a lot of people see the I call them sleep demons because they're demons to me. Some people who think they were abducted will think that they're alien or ETs.
Yeah, every culture kind of puts their own little spin on the experience of sleep paralysis. Yeah.
And I notice a lot of people, and like I go into different forums and on Reddit and on Facebook, the alien research, ET and stuff. A lot of people with the sightings are having more of these experiences where they think that they're in a sleep paralysis state, but they're thinking it's more alien, like they're communicating with them or something, that they think they're the chosen ones, and they're having this conversation with an extraterrestrial. You guys remember when the Astar Command? Do you know what Astar?
Yeah.
Brian, have you ever heard of that?
Give me a little more detail, maybe.
There's these people there's a spacecraft in our solar system that has these. They're called Astar. What's it? Jason, what is it? Astar.
Astar.
Command. They're like
tongue twister.
There's a lot. Yeah, it is very tongue twisty. These humanoids, they look like us. They're mostly tall, very good looking. Most of them have blonde hair, blue eyes, and they are in communication with
They sound like Swedish people.
Sort of like the Vikings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're in communication with humans. There's only a few selected people. And now that they truly believe that we are going to be in contact with these extraterrestrials that are orbiting, Earth. And that's why we're seeing an increase with the UFO sightings in the last 2 years. Boots, here we got a question. Boots, aliens are going to make themselves known in July. This is from somebody out there.
Cool. Okay.
No, Okay, Brian, let's put a scenario. Okay, since we're talking about all these extraterrestrials, UFO sightings with the Pentagon and all these military seeing these, and it's just not United States; it's all over. It's China, it's Japan, it's Ethiopia, it's in the Middle East, and most of them are going where there's military bases that have nuclear energy. Okay, now we're just going to throw that out there. You're a psychologist, and something actually happens that we find out that there's, aliens. What are you going to help? How are you going to help these people from not going nuts? Okay.
Well, that's a separate issue. But I'm totally open to the possibility of extraterrestrials. I saw a Roper poll in the U.S. About 67% of the U.S. population is open to that possibility. Where I become more skeptical is the idea that they've been systematically abducting and extracting sperm and eggs for the past 40 years. It really doesn't make sense to me on a logical level. If we think about, let's go with the stereotype of alien craft, how technologically advanced they are. They would be far ahead of us in terms of technology. So we could get an entire human genome from a drop of blood. So if they wanted to study us or clone us or do something, why would they keep systematically doing the same primitive experiment on people over and over again? I don't see the logic in it. Some people say breathing programs, but again, you could get all human DNA from one drop of blood. You wouldn't need to abduct and put yourself at risk for being seen hundreds of times. It's a strange sort of
what
thing.
if they just wanted to make a new creature with us?
Yeah, they could just kidnap one of us and not do it over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. But why do these people, there's so many people that actually believe that they're abducted. And some of them are even saying that they were women who were pregnant and then they're no longer pregnant after the abduction. So something happened to the baby.
Well, I'd like to talk to their gynecologists. I mean, of course. I mean, I'm making jokes, but I as someone who's talked to lots of people with sleep paralysis, I don't think these people are nuts. I think that the experiences are so vivid and so scary. They're just as real as anything else in your environment. So I don't begrudge anybody from feeling that they had something really extraordinary happen to them during these phases. I really don't. I had it once myself after 7 years after I was studying it. So I can tell from firsthand experience how vivid it is. But again, I think we have to think about what's probable and what's possible. And what seems to be within the realm of what we can explain through other reasons, or if it's something truly that goes beyond the bounds of science. So just because a lot of people believe something is not compelling evidence for me. We can go lots of history and people believe lots of stupid things.
Well, it's just like, why would somebody I know they believe that they were abducted and they believe that they were taken, like Travis Walton, to take his case, that he believes that he was taken up through the white light from the ship, took him on the ship, and they did all kind of stuff to him. Why couldn't they? Why they might be highly intelligent, but maybe they just want to know more about the human body or how it works or how can we destroy it with a crazy virus, maybe. You know what I mean? I believe they're highly intelligent, but I still believe that they want to know more about the human body, and maybe they are harvesting eggs and sperm to recreate some kind of a super being or something. Or even the military. There was some information, like some forums that used to say that the military did it because they were trying to build a super soldier, and they needed, I'm not talking alien, I'm talking people in this government military that were doing this and taking them underground to do these experiments because they were wanting to build a super soldier.
That seems fairly elaborate, though. Wouldn't they have access to people they could?
No, where are they going to get the
DNA
people?
from?
Who's going to volunteer? Are you going to volunteer? I'm not.
Well, you know what? Here,
I
here's
think it's
what
a strange.
That is strange, and I'll tell you why. Because they have the capability of doing it right now without, taking somebody's genes or whatever. Now, if they want to make a superhuman, they're going to make a superhuman, but they're not just doing it. This is how I feel, So I just think they're blowing smoke up everybody's asses just to get, some people rolling. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. And if there is a superhuman being going to be coming around, we're going to be dead because it's 30, 40 years down the road. Easily.
Well, I don't know about 34. I think something's going to happen. Why would the military see all these sightings every day for the last 2 years? Now, could it be our own military technology? I don't know.
Possibly.
Possibly,
Okay.
but they've probably been seeing them since 50s.
We have a comment. Boots, what do you mean it's real? What's real? And what's wrong? I'm not sure I understand your comments.
Tic Tac.
Yeah, what does Tic Tac? You mean the Tic Tac the Tic Tac video?
Tic Tac Toe.
No, he's talking about. No, seriously. I mean, I don't know. Something big's going to happen, and are we going to be prepared for it? And you, as a psychologist, how are you going to prepare for it when crazy people like myself, not crazy, highly emotional people freak out? Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's like when the rapture hit.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have videos about the rapture, people disappearing. They actually have the militaries. They have Project Bluebeam. Okay, so you're saying it's Project. You know what Project Bluebeam is, Brian?
You mean Blue Book?
No, Project Bluebeam, where they actually it's like a technology that actually looks like a motion picture that they put in the sky that make you looks like, those sightings of Magic Oria, the Virgin Mary, angel sightings. They're not real, they're just fake. So okay. he's saying it could be a fake alien invasion. I think that's what he's trying to say. That could be it. This UFO, well, it's supposed to come any day now. They according to Fox News and Tucker Carlson, he said that it's gonna the Senate's gonna look at it. The report's gonna be released any day.
It would be fascinating.
But what can we do? I mean, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. What am I going to do if I see this superhuman being or whatever's going to happen?
You're going to wet yourself.
You're going to get dressed.
I'll say, come get me off this damn earth, man. I'll be like, beam me up, Scotty.
Shit. You're going to butcher meat.
That's what I'm going to do. I mean, so if the world ends, the world ends. What can we do about it?
I mean, if you think about it, we have had roughly similar things happen that blew people's minds. Just think about Columbus.
Yeah.
What happened with Columbus, and this really gets overlooked, you had Columbus sailing across the ocean, making contact with a people that were never talked about in anything, not in the Bible, not in ancient Greek and Roman philosophy. It was almost like he went to another world. And it took a while for people to really wrap their heads around this, the implications of what it meant to discover the new world. So from my perspective, I think, if aliens are out there, and I'm open to the possibility they are, I think people will adapt to it. I think it'll freak people out and we'll be nervous, and we might have good reason being nervous. We might not, but we'll adapt to it. I mean, we've been living with nuclear weapons for a long time, haven't we?
Oh yeah. Yes. I find it to be very exciting, Brian.
Yeah, it could be. It could be scary. It could be frightening. Mm-hmm. So
I think it'd be. Yeah.
A comment from Boots said the holographic simulated. That's what Project Bluebeam is, a holographic simulated alien invasion to usher in one world government. Build back better. We're going to tear it down and make it better. New world order, maybe.
That's similar to the plot of the original Watchmen comic books too. Sort of institute a world peace through an alien invasion.
Yeah. What if we all start sleepwalking when this is all going on?
Well, we won't be conscious, so it won't bother us.
Seriously, Brian, that's how they can get us. If they put us in some kind of a glamour situation like vampires and control our minds, all of a sudden we get out of bed and we start sleepwalking to a certain place at a FEMA camp or something that they set up, these aliens, to control us and put us in this prison type and use us as slaves. I don't know. I would think I'm going to be thinking about having some sleep paralysis tonight. Get me out of
Again,
here.
I think I'd like to see some evidence on that before I'm going to buy into it.
That's a good question, Brian. That's a good question. How can we give you evidence? How
Yeah.
can we give it to
Ooh,
you?
yeah, that's a good one.
Set some electrodes on us and hook us up.
I think physical proof is always good. If I saw an alien that had different DNA, and I'd totally buy it.
I'm just saying.
But
no,
I mean,
on the
usually,
sleep
the
paralysis.
sad thing is that a lot of these reports, they're based on firsthand narratives. So the anecdotal evidence, that's sort of the lowest thing on the ladder of science, right? Because we can believe all sorts of things. We all have false memories, for instance. Me too. In fact, one of my friends who is a false memory researcher realized that he had been telling a story for years that was completely not true. That was a complete false memory. His name's Chris French. He wrote about this. So not even false memory researchers are immune to having memories that never really happened. If you get told certain things, and especially if you seek out hypnotists, which if you look in a number of the people who believe that something happened to them, they were abducted by aliens, they would seek out a hypnotist. And hypnosis is notorious for having the possibility of instilling false memories, especially if the hypnotist and the person being hypnotized are believers themselves. So
Sounds
it's good to be
interesting.
cautious of these things.
Yep, it is. And we're going to have to leave it at that, Brian, because we just got a little wrap up. We got to wrap it up. So it was great to have you on for our anniversary.
Yeah, Brian.
Happy
Yeah,
anniversary,
thank you.
everybody.
Thanks,
Hope you do
Brian.
something
you
special.
for joining us. And as soon as we get
Thank you.
those aliens, the Senate report, we'll have to have you on when they have proof. But thanks
I
again.
would love to talk about that.
Well, thank you again. Check out where you can
Thanks,
reach
Brian.
Brian's information on the Facebook page. Guys, thanks again for joining us, and see you later from Chasing Prophecy. Have a great evening, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.